When it comes to Avalanche's native token called AVAX, there's three different hypothetical price scenarios that I have on my mind, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, here's the first one that I do want to take a look at. And this is maybe even considering there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle, but again, only time will tell. Now that is maybe AVAX at the idea of $180. However, that is nearly 6x from here, around a 5.7x, and the market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be around 76 billion. However, to me, why wouldn't this necessarily surprise me? It's because when I take a look at, first of all, before I talk about the fundamentals of Avalanche, people may be thinking, okay, why would you care about that, right? Like, again, some of my friends might tell me, hey, that's less than a 6x from here. Why would you care? Well, it's because if Ethereum went to 10 grand, that's less than a 3x from right now. And also if Bitcoin, let's say, went to 300 grand from right now, that's also less than a 3x from here. So I just don't really find this too disappointing, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be the best thing either. And how can it, right? Less than a 6x is not necessarily going to be the best thing of all time, but I don't mind that nonetheless. However, even besides all that, I do like the fundamentals of Avalanche, and let me explain why. When it comes to Avalanche, I am a fan of it as a layer 1 blockchain. I like how the gas fees are very reasonable. I like how it's very scalable. I like how it's very fast. And also on top of that, what I do like about Avalanche is its, DeFi ecosystem. When I take a look at according to DeFi Llama in terms of total value locked on DeFi, I always see like Avalanche consistently in that kind of like top 15 type of range. And of course, DeFi stands for decentralized finance. However, even besides that as well, I take a look at, these kind of projects, right, that have this kind of sort of, relation to Avalanche, something like, for instance, in the DeFi space, like Pangolin, like Trader Joe. So I do like overall what I'm seeing when it comes to Avalanche. Again, something like, Trader Joe, something like Pangolin, they're pretty massive, they're pretty popular. And again, I'm just a fan of it. However, even besides all that, when I take a look at Avalanche as well, there has been some pretty famous individuals who've said some things about this, and let me show you what I'm talking about. Because, for instance, right, according to the founder of Aave, and Aave is, pretty massive, right? I mean, again, the founder of Aave claims how Avalanche is well suited for building DeFi applications due to its scalability features. So I find that very impressive. However, also on top of that, the co-founder of Chainlink Labs claims that Avalanche gets us closer and closer and possibly arriving at parity with the speed of Web2 systems. So again, I find that very impressive. Now granted, some people may be thinking, yeah, but Avalanche isn't the only layer 1 blockchain out there. Totally aware of that. I mean, it's under some stiff competition, right? We take a look at, of course, something like Ethereum, also something like Solana, Cardano, Algorand, there's a bunch. But then at the end of the day, the way I take a look at it is that when I view, for instance, like, watch brands, right? Like, for instance, I'm using a G-Shock right now, a Casio. When it comes to a G-Shock, it's not like it's the only thing that's out there, for instance, right? I mean, there's a lot of watch brands out there. There's like Seiko, there's Citizen. I mean, there's, again, a lot. But the way I take a look at it is that it's not there's just only one brand. It's much like, for instance, in the world of computers. I mean, is there only Apple? No, right? I mean, there's also like something like Dell, also some others. Also in the world of cars, there's a bunch of car brands. So when I take a look at something like layer 1 blockchains, I don't really view it in a different way. I think that it's not only just going to be one thing, like, just only Ethereum and then the rest don't really do anything. Like, for instance, Solana's pretty massive, right? So to me, I still don't mind Avalanche because yes, there's a lot of layer 1 blockchains out there. Yes, there's a lot of competition, but I like the established nature when it comes to Avalanche. And also on top of that, I like its popularity. I like the community. So let's say maybe AVAX, let's say in an event where maybe there is even a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle. Again, AVAX may be at the idea of $180. Wouldn't really surprise me. Again, 180, just really wouldn't surprise me. However, even besides that, when I take a look at maybe the idea of $190 when it comes to AVAX, which is around a 6x from here, and the market cap at that point, if we were to consider the current circulating supply, it'd be around 80 billion. Now, to me as well, when I take a look at this, why wouldn't this necessarily surprise me? It's because I've seen like Dogecoin reach over $80 billion in market cap, back in 2021. And look, that was years ago. I'm not necessarily saying that, Avalanche is going to have this popularity that is going to exceed Dogecoin, but at the same time, like that was years ago, right? This just wouldn't really surprise me. And when I take a look at the substance of Avalanche and just kind of the quality of it, as a layer one blockchain, again, just maybe that idea, $190 when it comes to AVAX, just wouldn't surprise me. However, the third and final hypothetical price scenario that I do want to take a look at when it comes to Avalanche is, or should I say Avalanche's native token called AVAX. Again, that's $200, maybe the idea of it. Now that's slightly above a 6x from here, and the market cap at that point, around $84.5 billion, considering current circulating supply. Now, why wouldn't this necessarily surprise me? It's because when I take a look at, for instance, again, just like I mentioned earlier on in the video, I do like the fundamentals when it comes to Avalanche in terms of its like DeFi ecosystem. And if we take a look at the decentralized finance market, it is expected to be worth over $200 billion by 2030, according to Grandview Research. So I kind of like that aspect and that narrative. Also on top of that, there are supposedly over 600 million crypto owners currently, which is supposedly more than ever before in history. Whereas in the peak of the 2021 bull run, there was around 300 million crypto owners. So we have way more right now, basically double. And this is not even like seeing Bitcoin hypothetically at like even 150 grand yet. We haven't even seen it like, let alone like 200, 250 or 300, right? And also I kind of like the, just the whole vibe overall when it comes to the Bitcoin ETF. So again, maybe even, let's say I'm assuming in a make-believe scenario, hypothetically, if there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season, just the idea of seeing Avalanche maybe do something wouldn't surprise me. And also, when I take a look at maybe AVAX at $200, it's not something that would necessarily surprise me in an event where maybe it did happen, but only time will tell. Now, for me, whether or not, when it comes to AVAX or just like altcoins in general, whether or not they decide to really make a move, like maybe hypothetically, who knows, right? Either next week all the way up until 2026, sometime around there, and like, Q1 of that time, right? Or should I say that year of 2026, whenever that timeline is, or should I say that exact moment, it's going to be beyond my control. Like, I cannot demand the market to do this or do that. I can't do that. The only thing I can do is just stay patient, dollar cost average, hold, and I just wait, and just prepare myself for a moment in time in which AVAX does something, because that's pretty much all I can do actually when it comes to, Avalanche. However, sometimes people like to say, well, why don't you pull up a price chart? Well, if I pulled up a price chart, I drew like a falling wedge pattern or just a triangle. Yeah, sure, it would look cool. But then at the same time, is the market going to care about what I do on that price chart? I highly doubt it. Like, I don't think so, actually. So to me, I would just rather focus on the fundamentals. Now again, there's a different style, right? But that is just not my style. However, at the same time, all I can do is just stay patient, and that's what I'm going to do. And I kind of knew I'd have to wait for quite a while because just the way I did things like dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting, I knew I was going to have to wait. So it's not something that would necessarily surprise me if I had to wait longer. But, again, that's just pretty much it. And I'm just looking forward to maybe what it could do, but only time will tell. However, feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.